Jordan, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be restarting Project Seashell. If you're new to my channel and you haven't seen any videos, I have two projects that I work on. One is called Project Fire and the other one is called Project Seashell. Project Seashell, without giving too much away, is a Little Mermaid retelling. Now if you saw my last vlog, then you'd see that I actually finished the draft I've been working on of Project Fire, and like I said in that, I'm going to be putting that away for a while. I don't know if I'm going to be putting that away like long term for multiple years or if I'm just going to go to it after I finish this draft. Either way, Project Seashell is going to now be my priority that I'm working on. And there's a lot of reasons why I'm doing that. Again, I kind of went into it in the last video, but realistically, I don't think Project Fire is something that's going to do well when I query, because I do plan on going through the traditional route. You know, it's a bit long. I obviously know that I could go in and cut some stuff out, but I just don't really want to worry about that right now. I know it's going to be a little bit too long, and it's a series, and I just know they tend to not really want to go with series because it's a bit more of an investment. They'd rather assign you for a standalone. So because of that, I think Project Seashell is something that I have better chances of actually getting an agent with, so that's why I'm going to be prioritizing. Also, just working on Project Fire for a few years, kind of maybe taking small breaks, but then always going back to it, I feel like it's just become very muddled, and I think my skills aren't really advancing in the way that they should, because I'm just going to the same, like, kind of, almost feels like slop over and over again, which is not really what I should say about my book, because I don't really think it's that bad, but I think I need to take a break, work on something else, go through that process of beginning another book, because I think I'll improve a lot more working on something else than just the same thing over and over again, where I don't really know how to solve the issues I'm coming across. I just know that there's things I don't like about it. So hopefully this will help me become a better writer, so that when I do go back to Project Fire, it is significantly better. So the things I plan on doing today is, the first is just to reread what I have. It's only around 16,000 words, so it shouldn't take too long. I know that doesn't sound like a lot of words. It is a draft zero. My draft zeros do tend to be significantly smaller. I know a lot of people say that draft zeros tend to be around half the word count of the final, of the draft one, but that's definitely not how it works in my case. And the reason I do draft zeros in the first place is because I'm definitely a discovery writer, or like a pantser, but it's a way for me to write and discover it while I'm writing without wasting a long time writing an entire first draft. You know, I kind of already get to figure out where I'm going, what's going to be happening, but was just kind of summarizing it. But it still feels different than just outlining it, if that makes any sense. I do normally just straight up write Act 1 and Act 3s, just because I always go into every project knowing exactly what happens in detail for those. It's just the Act 2s that I don't really know what's going to be happening. It's the majority of the book, so it's probably not the best thing that I don't really know what's going to happen, but I could give you like a few sentences of a summary what's going to happen, but it's just very vague, and that's why I like doing the draft zeros. That way also, I tend to only write scenes that are really, really important to the plot and furthering it. I don't tend to write a lot of fluff, so normally when I'm doing my subsequent drafts, I'm normally just adding more and more versus having to cut out less and less, if that makes sense. Obviously, there's still stuff I have to cut, but it's normally, you know, taking out a few bullet points that I added, or you know, a few sentences here and there that were mainly just kind of summarizing what happens versus like actually writing it out like I normally would, doesn't feel like I've wasted my time as much. So like I said, I'm going to reread what I have, and then my second thing I'm going to be working on is, as I'm reading it and as I'm going throughout the day, I'm going to be updating my outline just to make sure that it's actually up to date and I haven't made any changes, or that I, you know, just making sure that it's accurate to what I want and reworking it if I have to. Then the third thing is, I'm going to be deciding today if I'm either going to be completely restarting and just throwing out what I worked on before. I'm hoping I can just continue where I left off, but there's a good chance I will have to throw out this 16,000 words I previously worked on to just restart the novel, which, if I have to do that, it is what it is. And it'll probably be better if I do that either way, but I'm hoping I can just continue where I was and just quickly finish the novel. Because I was sort of, I think towards the beginning of Act 3, I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I skipped around a lot, and it is basically just an outline. But still, I'm calling it draft zero. But there were some chapters I just straight up wrote. Alright, I'm gonna get started. I have my coffee. I've already had probably like 3 cups today. We don't need to talk about my caffeine intake. I am popping back in real quickly just to say that it's really weird that I think, so I'm reading the first chapter and I'm already liking it more than Project Fire. I'm sure, you know, my act ones, like I was saying before, tend to be pretty decent because I know what I'm doing going into it. Like, I know where I'm gonna go. I think my writing's, like, I don't know why, my writing in this seems like significantly better than Project Fire. Even though this is like a first draft, it somehow still feels better. Maybe I just need to completely erase all of Project Fire and just start from the beginning. I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting observation that I don't know why, I just already like this book more. Anyway, just wanted to pop in and add that. If you're a writer and you have more than one project that you're working on at a time, do you have one that you just like significantly more and you think is significantly better? Or does that just bode horribly for me? So I'm a few chapters now into my reread, and I was taking a quick break to write something in my journal, or in my diary. And also, first of all, I just want to add that I've had this diary since 2018. This is how inconsistently I write in it. I am only this far into this diary I've had for almost a decade now. That's really bad. But I was writing in it, and I came to the conclusion about like why I feel so much more motivated to write in this one is that I just feel so much more hopeful. Anytime I open Project Fire, I ended up just feeling worse about myself when I'd be done for the day than how I felt going into it, just because it's just so bad. It's not really that bad, but there's just too much story happening. I feel like I have too many plot lines, too many side characters, but I also feel like I have to have that because I'm setting up for what will be like around a 5-book series, versus this is just a standalone. I don't have all these extra things to set up. I don't have, you know, stuff to plan out ahead of time to make sure that in continuity it's consistent. I just am focusing on this book, and I just feel so much more hopeful about it. And that's kind of what it is. I always feel like, oh, Project Fire isn't going to get published, it's not good enough, whereas I feel like Project Seashell actually has a chance. Now, obviously, it's not necessarily guaranteed that it's going to get an agent. Nothing's ever guaranteed. Like I said, I just feel so much more hopeful about it. And so I finished reading around halfway of what I have already. I realized I'm not as far along as I thought I was. I'm only part of the way into Act 2B, but either way, I still don't think it should take too long to finish up. I have decided I'm not going to necessarily like rewrite what I already have, but as I was going, I noticed some minor things I wanted to kind of switch around and change. So I'm going to go in and just kind of go through the beginning chapters I already have, kind of mess with those a little bit, adjust them as I need to before continuing on. I know you're not supposed to edit as you go, but it would bug me to kind of keep going while those things were in my mind, so I'm just going to go quickly, but still, I don't think it should take me too long to finish. I'm going to take a break to grab something to eat, and then I'm going to continue. So I finished reading the draft, and it might be worse than I thought. I realized that despite this book being like basically a romantasy, you know, very romance heavy, the main romance has no build-up. There's just no build-up. And I don't know how I managed to do that. It's actually kind of impressive how I managed to skip over doing any character development or you know, romantic development between the two of them. So yeah, I definitely need to restart the book. I mean, it's kind of honestly just funny. I'm not too mad. I mean, I'm kind of a bit annoyed, but it is what it is. I'm probably gonna just take the time to, you know, bring my dogs for another walk. Afterwards, I'm gonna just come back and I'm gonna just spend pretty much the rest of the night reworking and adding some more stuff. It moves too quickly. Like that's kind of the good thing about having a draft 0 is that like you don't have a lot of fluff that needs to get cut later. But it's almost like too far in the opposite direction where I don't have enough character development and like relationship, you know, romantic development. So that's definitely what I'm going to focus on. And then I'm probably just going to spend the rest of the night editing this video. Okay, so guess who lied? Not only did I not come back and spend the rest of the night working, I have not touched that since, okay, that last clip happened on Friday and today is Monday and I have not done any work since then. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to do an honest just brainstorm today and try and figure out good ways to add in more romance and develop it, because I really hate when romances go from like 0 to 100 very quickly. when they go from not liking each other to like, oh my god, we're in love after like one scene. I really hate that. So I really want to focus on just their development and getting them to, you know, like each other, because they don't even like each other at the moment, and it just doesn't make sense. Also, I tend to fall into the trap of like the first half of the book tends to be way longer than the second half. So I did, I guess, a decent job getting them to the midpoint, but then everything after that is just extremely rushed, and it goes from like, I hate you to, oh my god, kiss me, and I'm like, no, absolutely not. It's really weird because when I'm just like working on a draft, it's really easy to know when I'm being productive because I can look at the word count and be like, okay, I wrote this many words today, or I can like be like, I wrote this many chapters. But when it's in like the planning stage, it's really hard to feel productive. So a part of me doesn't want to spend too long trying to kind of rework and re-outline, because again, this is also a draft 0. You know, it having these glaring issues with the romance is like kind of the whole point. Not like the whole point, but you know what I mean. I'm not too mad about it. Again, I'm annoyed, but it is what it is. I'm just gonna continue on. Okay, so I think I found the problem. I had something happening before the midpoint. I kind of was using to lead into the midpoint, but I don't really think it makes sense, so I'm going to have the midpoint lead into that sequence of events, if that makes any sense, without giving away too much. So I'm going to try that first, and I'm going to create something to go before the midpoint to replace what will be moved, the scene that will be moved till after. So I think that's actually going to work a bit better. Alright, I'm starting to lose my light, so this is probably going to be the last update for the day. I finished the outline, so that's all done. I moved around some stuff that I think is really going to make it better, and it's kind of fixed some of the issues that I had. And I went ahead and started going back and kind of fixing the chapters starting at the beginning. There wasn't really a lot for the first few chapters. Honestly, I was mainly just fixing some typos. I am really excited for the rest of it, and I'm going to continue tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching my video. Happy writing.